there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. These are the 3 cards that we are going to be creating today, kind of birthday and baby, depending on what you're looking for. So I have this nice big stitched circle here and some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and so I've cut 2 big large circles out of these 2. This card design is pretty super simple, and you could use it in lots of different ways. So that's what I was up to today, and that's why I was able to get 3 cards made. And I am going to be using some Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock for the card faces. Now I have these little squares that I showed in a haul a little while ago. These are fabric squares. I think they might be quilting squares. And then I have this little baby set here. This is a Sizzix set, and I'm using the little baby onesie and then the onesie that it cuts out around it. And just on some plain white cardstock, some Neenah Solar White, which is exactly the same as what I've cut the card front panel out of. And I'm just going to cut one of each side by side. I'm using my little die cutting machine, which I purchased from AliExpress, and I will link that down below just in case you're interested. I've been using it for weeks and weeks now, and I love it. So handy and so small to have on my desk. So I am just going to take these out of their little thinlits carefully. They're a little bit delicate. And then I am going to add some foam squares. The foam squares are from AliExpress also. Just in between the top layer and the bottom layer, just to give the card, that little baby outfit, a little bit of dimension. I do want the clothing to be plain because it is going to have the fabric behind it, and so I want it to really stand out, and I don't want it to clash. So I picked this pink square here, and it fits quite nicely behind. I believe the squares are 4 by 4 inches, so I don't need to cut it down. Now I was thinking about different ways to adhere these pieces of fabric, and to be honest, I did some testing about what was going to be strongest, and I let it dry, some glue dry for a day or 2, and I really just found this double-sided tape to be the easiest way. It doesn't show through at all. You can't tell that there's tape on the underside or that there's gaps in between the tape and things, and it held on really well. So this is what I pretty much end up using for this project. So I'm just putting it down on the card, making sure to stay away from that, from the edge of the card, obviously. I don't want any showing out the side. And then flattened it down nicely so there's no wrinkles and crinkles in the piece of fabric. Well, the best that I can. And then from here, as I said, these cards are super simple, so it's just, they came together quite quickly. And on the front, I am going to stamp from this stamp set. Now here's where you'll laugh. This stamp set here is one I showed in a haul recently, and it was all great. It looked lovely. And then when I took it out of its package here, I realized that actually this stamp is one big, large stamp. The letters and words are not separate. And I looked at it and was like, it just doesn't even look like something I would stamp. So, oh well, making the best of the situation that I had at hand, I was like, right, I will just cut out the word that I want. So I did exactly that. I was never going to use it as a whole stamp. In fact, I can't understand, anyhow. So I've just cut out the word congratulations, and I will keep this stamp there and continue to just cut out the words that I need when I need them. So I'm putting it on a nice big acrylic block and lining it up on my mat so that I know that it's straight. And then I'm so simply using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a nice black ink that seems to stamp really well, and I'm going to stamp it sort of in the center of that bottom portion of the card. And I've cut all of the cards relatively similar because they're all going to have exactly the same style, and I was always leaving room for a sentiment down the bottom. So that's cool. I've put some double-sided tape down around that whole card so that it lays flat, and the only part of the card that's got dimension is really the baby onesie that goes in the middle, which has the little foam squares behind it. So there you go. It's coming together nice and quickly, and I'm just going to put some glue behind. This is liquid glue, and this is Ranger's multi-medium in the matte finish. is what I have in this little bottle here. The little squeezy bottle itself is from AliExpress. And I'm just going to put that square right in the middle. And then from here, all I'm going to do is add some Nuvo drops. And I'm going to add those around the outside of the card. For this card, just to go with the pink fabric, I am going to use the, it's called Rose Water. It dries transparent with sort of a tinge of pink or a tone of pink to it. So just trying to keep them a little bit coordinated. So just some little random drops all around the outside, wherever I feel like it, and these dry really nice. Quite a few. As I said, it's quite a nice simple design that you would be able to replicate for lots of different occasions, and not too much dimension apart from that little onesie in the middle, which you could definitely glue down flat if it was going to be a problem. From here I have this little bubbles die, and again I'm just running it through my little mini die cutting machine, and I'm actually going to run this through 3 times out of the same neenah Solar White cardstock, just the 80-pound stuff, and popping out all of those little center pieces. I am going to sort of jigsaw these all together on the back, just for kind of a little bit of added interest for the card. So you can see I've got all 3 cut out here, and for this one here I'm going to use the word celebrate, and again doing the exact same thing using some VersaFine Onyx black ink and stamping down the celebrate, and that part's done. Now this is where this is fun. I really like doing this. I'm going to use a little bit of, you could use any tape at all. I just had some double-sided tape on my desk, sitting on my desk. So I'm just, that's what I'm using to adhere down the edges of this, and the die was just long enough to fit right down the center there. And then I'm going to piece it together, and I want these pieces to be as close together with as few amount of gaps as I can manage. So you can see that I drew a wee line there where I needed to cut so that nothing would hang over the outside edge of the card, and I'm trying to get it in as close as I can so that all the bubbles, you can't necessarily tell that it's lots of pieces pieced together from the front. I guess that's what I'm aiming for. And then I'm just going to use all these little spare pieces that I cut off. I'm able to reuse them and just fill up all those little extra spots that I have there. So this was made out of 3 cuts of the bubbles die. And I just use a pen to mark where I need to cut. So just adding a little bit of double-sided tape. And in the end I actually do end up taking off the backing of the double-sided tape so that it gives me, so that I can actually use it as double-sided tape and it's sticky. So that was a good help as well in the end. Filling in the last little gaps. And yeah, this one looks quite cool. As I said, you could definitely do lots of different designs with this. And I was trying lots of different fabrics behind this one. I couldn't decide. And it's kind of easy to see that lots of different colors and designs go behind it really nicely. So you could definitely personalize it to somebody, colors that they like or a different occasion or whatever. And it can certainly be any scraps of fabric. I just like using different textures and things on my card. So yeah, I was trying these little, in fact, I actually bought these little fabric squares for my daughter to play with and cut up, and she did cut them up, and we were having fun cutting and pasting and doing all sorts together. And then I was like, this could turn into a cool card. So she gave me the idea. I'll give her the credit. And here I'm also doing the same thing, just using this sort of, it dries transparent with a little green tinge and a few little Nuvo drops around the outside, and that will finish off this card. And I turn it right back around. And this one is pretty one-dimensional, pretty flat, apart from the little Nuvo drops. This is the card that I just used this die from. I will try and find the link to this one. If not, just use something with a creative edge to it. And this one is a slightly smaller circle. And I want this one to have a small border around the outside, just because, for no real reason in particular. whereas the others didn't. So I have put the double-sided tape down on the card this time, and now I am adhering this purple piece to the actual card front. And this one is 3 little leaves that I've cut out just in the same 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I am going to have these poking in from the edge. I'm not trying to fill in the middle with these ones like I was with the bubble. This is just a sort of added little bit of interest to the card, but I'm certainly not trying to fill in the middle. But I am adhering them down exactly the same way and just adding a little bit of the double-sided adhesive to the edges. And see, there you go, it looks quite nice from the front. These are the little foam circles that I have shown. I have been using these lots recently and I'm finding them so handy. I want to, and then I remembered before I was doing the foam that I need to stamp my sentiment, otherwise that makes life awfully tricky if you try and do it after you have adhered the foam tape. So this one is simply going to say happy birthday, and again in the same VersaFine Onyx black ink. Sorry about my head, I was trying to make sure I hit it roughly in the middle. Stamped it out, and then I'm adding all of these foam circles to the back. In all honesty, I do have lots of options, that I could use for foam. However, I'm usually short of time when I'm making these cards, and so I use what is sitting on my desk. And these little foam circles have been sitting on my desk for quite some time, and so they're just really handy sitting there. So there's no rhyme or reason as to why I use the foam circles versus foam tape or foam squares or fun foam. So to finish this card off, I'm going to add some little Nuvo drops again, and then I did add some little squirts of glue under the large leaves in the center just so that they were nice and secure. And that's my cards for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks so much for joining me. See you next time. Bye.